bira. Alangan hindi na naman ako, self-defense na lang yun sa akin. Bira ka ng bira, alangan hindi ako sumagot. Pag sumagot ako, walang drama. Unggoy, di ba? Unggoy siya Bakulaw.
Suspended BuCor Chief Gerald Bantag denies any involvement in the murder of radio broadcaster Percy Lapid.
The suspended Bureau of Corrections Chief called Justice Secretary Boying Rimulya a liar.
Sinungaling si Boying. Bumaba na siya. Yan ang gusto na rin ng taong bayan. Wala na siyang credibility. Unang-una, anak niya, di ba? Sabihin na natin, innocent until proven otherwise. Pero as secretary, ganun nangyari, di ba? Sabi ng mga taong bayan, baka daw mayroong middleman pa, katulad nangyari sa akin. Kung may middleman doon, di baka may mastermind. Kaya ang sinasabi nila doon, sabi ng mga tao, baka ang mastermind si Boying mismo.
Giniit ni Bantag na wala siyang kasalanan sa may birada kay Justice Secretary Boying Rimulya na tinawag pa niyang sinungaling.
Suspended BuCor Chief Gerald Bantag comes forward and turns the tables on his accusers. He particularly mentions Justice Secretary Boying Rimulya, whom he has also dared to resign. But the DOJ's challenge to Bantag brings all accusations to the proper forum. We discuss all of these in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to the weekend edition of The Chiefs. I'm Lingao. Online from Manila, Pamintuan of the Philippine Star. And in Quezon City, Luchi Cruz-Valdes of News 5. And joining us again is Cito Beltran of One News here in the studio. Cito and ladies.
Good evening, Chiefs.
Evening.
Happy weekend.
Happy weekend.
Binabati ka ng happy weekend
But let's finish the episode first before we greet each other. Happy weekend.
Okay. Well, a lot of things on the table. A lot of people we want to talk to tonight, especially since today lumantad si General Bantag. Although, as he says nga naman, he was never in hiding to begin with because wala namang arrest warrant against him yet. So, lumantad si Bantag at marami siyang sinabi. At marami tayong gustong pag-usapan, marami tayong gustong tanungin, at especially mga reactions coming from those involved. So, yun. We speak to our first guest after this very short break, so please keep it here in One News. Suspended BuCor Chief Gerald Bantag tells the family of slain broadcaster Percy Lapid that they got the mastermind wrong. We speak to Attorney Berteni Causing, lawyer and spokesperson of the Lapid family. Attorney Causing, maraming salamat for joining us tonight, and welcome back to the Chiefs.
And thank you for welcoming me back in the Chiefs.
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure to have you on board.
report, sir.
I would like to take this opportunity to greet Ed, Annie, Luchi, and Cito, and Aaron.
Please see yun, Bate. Sir, sige, sir. Sir, let me start off with this. I'm sure you've watched the interviews with General Bantag. Ang dami niyang pinunlakan ng mga interview ngayong araw na ito. Although more or less, pare-pare naman ang sinabi niya. Pero the primary thing he was saying was you got the mastermind wrong at this was all contrived or this was all a frame up by Secretary Remulla himself.
Yes, yes. And to the Mabasa family, we call it as a fire without substance, and an attempt to evade from the real issue, which is the relevant issue, which is the murder of Mr. Percy Lapid and the murder of Mr. June Villamor. So all others that he said must be filed in another forum if he has evidence. When I watched it, he did not show to the media any evidence of his claim. And the nearest that he could come to the Percy Lapid issue was that alleged cell phone showing the video of Mr. Lapid, and that he claimed that he was asking counsel from his classmates at PNP Batch 96. And he was advised for him to go to the nearest police station and have it blotted and maybe file another case. To us, it was only a claim. Maybe there is a record for that, but to us, it is an attempt to put up a smoke screen in order to hide the real plot. And if he says that the real culprit is someone else, well, we cannot do otherwise than obey to the dictates of the evidence that we saw.
What do you think will happen to...
Yung mga sinabi ni Gerald Bantag, ang dami nga eh. Are you going to formalize this in your counter affidavit? Kasi nag-preliminary investigation na kanina. Sasama niyo po sa defense niya, tinuturo niya si Herman ba to o German Agoho na
Herman
Agoho. Pati si Secretary Remulla, sabi niya, baka daw yun ang mastermind mismo.
So,
sasama niyo ba to sa defense niya?
So anyway, we cannot just say whether we decide to add it up in our reply affidavit, because we will just wait for the day when we receive the official document. Because as of now, everything that he said, although we may use it as evidence, because taking of judicial notice of what he said is also true, then, but we have to first wait for the day when he submits finally his counter affidavit. So that is our stand on that matter. Although we take note of those things that he said, Mami.
Sir, okay, so ano ang sa tingin ninyo pinanghahawakan niya na hindi pa niya na i-reveal to a great extent, because nga, according to his lawyer, hindi pa nila nababasa lahat ng yung sapina, halimbawa, wala pa silang. So, kumbaga, he's keeping, obviously, his reactions to himself. But so far, he has claimed na hindi niya tao si Escorial at hindi rin niya tao yung June Villamor. At ang talagang may tao doon ay itong si German Agoho. Just off the cuff, do you think that this is something worth exploring at the very least?
Actually, Ma'am Aaron, even before the coming out of the name of Mr. Agoho, Herman Luna Agoho, I have already researched that from the very beginning. When Joel Escorial told me personally that since 2000, year 2000, he and Chris Santo Palanya Villamor, along with others, were employees of Herman Luna Agoho, whose work was to accept the job of killing. It was Herman Luna Agoho who was contracting for a death kill, but it was them who would be doing the dirty job. And he said that when Mr. Agoho was convicted by Judge Voltaire Rosales, then the cut off already their relationship with Mr. Aguho. So, meaning to say, if that is so, I could not just think of a way whereby Mr. Aguho could enter into the picture, considering that Mr. Lapid did not even mention the name of Herman Luna Aguho. So, the absence of motive is the biggest thing that Mr. Bantag would overcome if he would want to prove to us the theory that it was Aguho who ordered the killing. Although,
What makes you... Okay, yes.
Although we have also researched that Judge Voltaire Rosales was killed in 2004, and it was actually according to Judge Jimmy Santiago, he was the one who sentenced the first middleman who was killed for the killing of Judge Voltaire Rosales. So, if that is the way, I have already known that, but we do not have any inkling that there was any kind of smallest motive for Mr. John Aguho to order his former henchman in order to do the job. Otherwise, we have seen the moving of three seemingly warring gangs to unite into one and to do the killing of Mr. Percy Lapid. Only a superlative person who has that strong moral ascendancy can make that happen. And there was no other man that can do that except for Mr. Bantag. Of course,
Pero hindi ho ba parang masyado niyong you're setting great stock on Escorial's testimony in effect? Kasi sa kanya nanggaling essentially ang karamihan ng kwentong ito, no? Itong kasong pinangahawakan nyo ngayon. So you're in effect saying that you put great value
yes,
to Escorial's testimony.
Yes.
You have no reason to doubt him.
We have the reason to doubt Mr. Escorial.
Yeah, but Attorney Causing, may I ask, because
yes.
Attorney Causing, you have said in many interviews that you've done a lot of investigation, you've interviewed so many people. Were there corroborative testimonies, evidences that proved to you beyond doubt that everything Escorial presented to you is fact and not a fiction or a fallacy?
Yes, we have, but the problem is we have a hard time convincing these people who are insiders in the BuCor or in the NBP. But they all gave me those information earlier than the time that we read the confessions of 4 inmates, including the 3 gang lords, and the statements of these 3 gang lords and 1 inmate corroborated the statements of the informants that we received, who gave us the information. So, a few days before they surrendered.
Looks like we lost Attorney Causing.
That's Attorney Causing.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir. We lost you for a while, but go ahead.
In addition, the statement, sir, strong an evidence. Imagine for him to surrender and to risk his life to follow imprisonment through reclusion perpetua as a punishment for murder, and then for him to surrender that was used and that was confirmed to be the same gun that was used to kill Mr. Percy Lapid, and then for him to surrender the passbook that jibed with the report of the AMLAC and jibed with the stories of the 3 gang lords in money, and then he surrendered tips made to BDO for 70,000 pesos, and then another deposit slip made to Security Bank for 40,000 pesos, and then another Palawan Express deposit, a remittance in the amount of 24,000 made in the favor of Edmond de Maculangan. So, and then
On the other hand, Attorney,
all the telephone numbers So all those telephone numbers, once it is examined by the Anti-Cybercrime Division, it shall go, or it will show the web of exchanges of text messages that will confirm, that will form a separate independent evidence to prove the existence of conspiracy among them all.
Eh, hindi nga ba yun nga yung malakas na ebidensya against your client? Kasi wala namang, even you mentioned na parang walang makitang motive for Mr. Herman Agoho na
Wala.
So, linawin ko lang, were you consulted by Gerald Bantag about his appearance ngayon sa TV? Ang dami niyang sinabi. And
Ay, wala.
they're recorded eh. Pwede yung gamitin ebidensya.
Yes, we will really certainly, Ma'am Aggie. Actually, even his interview with Anthony Taberna, we can get evidence. We can use those as evidence, just to create an evidence, separate evidence to prove conspiracy, that he was in the conspiracy. You know, in the science of evidence, we cannot use the statements of Escorial, of Alvin Labra, of Ariel Galicia, of Ariel Piña-Redonda, and of Denver Mayores, and Ricardo Soriano Zalweta, if we cannot have any evidence separate to prove the existence of conspiracy.
Eh kung may conspiracy, sino yung head conspirator?
No other than Mr. Bantag himself as the evidence that we have held as of the moment.
Siyang conspirator sa pagpatay. Siyang conspirator sa pagpatay.
Yeah, he was the head of the conspiracy.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Attorney Berteni Causing, tagapagsalta ng Lapid family, sir. Maraming salamat for joining us tonight. At ingat po parati.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And at this point, let's bring in another voice into the conversation. Joining us via the phone is BuCor OIC General Gregorio Catapang. Sir, magandang gabi and welcome back to the Chiefs.
Ay, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.
Yes, sir.
Magandang gabi, sir.
Maraming salamat, sir. Maraming salamat, sir, for joining us. Ang dami namin gustong tanongin sa inyo. Among them, yung swimming pool. Ayon kay General Bantag. Pero before we get to that, I'm sure you monitored kanina yung series of interviews na binigay ni General Bantag sa media dun sa Baguio. At among the things that he claimed, pinalalabas niya na isang malaking conspiracy ito ni Secretary Remulla para matanggal siya at kayong ipalit sa kay Gerald Bantag. And it supposedly goes way back pa raw. What do you have to say to that, sir?
Una sa lahat, there's no conspiracy. Dahil in the first place, I was willing to be the deputy of DP Bantag. When I talked to Secretary Remulla, sabi niya, hindi ka ba maging deputy ni DG Bantag? Senior ka sa kanya. Sabi ko, yes, para makatulong kayo, it's importante yung what is important there, and I, as a brother, able to help you. Sabi niya, problema ko sa tatlong agency, LRA, Immigration, and BuCor. So, he decided na Brad, kasi bukan na lang muna sa BuCor, pagtulong nyo, pati yung BuCor. So, there's no conspiracy. Ang nangyari dyan, the incident na napatibigyan mo, there was a preventive inspection. So I was called on the 9th of November, October 21, and the secretary told me, Brad, pwede ka ba mag-OIC kasi naka-preventive suspension si DG Bantag. Yes, kung yun ang i-order mo sa... So I was not really prepared for OIC. And I never craved for that position. Kasi nga, beginner pa ako, yung pa ako. So to be a head of that office is quite a difficult job. So I was willing to learn the curve and become just a deputy of BuCor.
Okay.
Okay, General, good evening. This is Cito Beltran. I just wanted to ask you to please narrate to us your discoveries ever since you took over the facility. Kasi pati kami nasya-shock. May swimming pool, tunnels, etc.
Alleged swimming pool.
Alleged swimming pool, tunnel, may mga CCTV round na na-discover ka, and then all the 126 cadavers that have been unclaimed. What is going on?
Unfortunately, masyado ko kinakalkal ko lahat ng nangyayari dito. Yun, nadi-discover ko right in front of my face. So, pumuputok na lahat. Kumbaga, nag-i-implode na yung BuCor, and I'm on damage control mode, unfortunately. So, first things first, yun nga, my problem is with the inmates. No, there was a killing with one of the inmates by their own inmates, and then secondly, my greatest problem is who will guard the guardians. No, itong mga gwardiya ko, medyo alanganin. Sino ba yung magpupuslit ng 7,512 Red Horse beer? Hindi naman pwede inmates yan. And then nung pinahaul ko na, nabawasan na kagad. Anong binilang namin, 7,505 na lang. So may sumikwat na 7. Hinahanap ko nga, sabi ko, sino yung kumuha ng 7, may babayaran siya 7,000. Kasi 1,000 per beer daw ang bentahan dyan. Baka magalit sa akin yung nagpuslit niyan. So, yung greatest problem dito is huwag kang kukurap. Literally.
Sir!
Kasi kumurap ka, nakurap ka, pumurap ka. Yung huwag kang kukurap, yung sa mata, kung ba 24 hours yung mata mo na never blink your eye, or else you will get an incident na may nakapuslit na dyan o may nakapasok na dyan ng mga kontrabando.
Sir, quick reaction lang dun sa mga nasambit ni General Bantag. No? Unang-una, ang sabi niya, inamin niya na talagang kaharian ko yan. Dahil pag DG ka, dapat, in so many words, no? Sabi niya, asta mo talaga, parang kaharian mo yan dahil you have to control it. Quick reaction to that. Isn't that what you're also in effect doing by saying na hindi ka pwedeng kumurap-kurap dyan dahil konting kurap mo lang, baka may mangyari na. Do you agree with that? That you have to conduct yourself like, it's your empire and you have to take full control. I think that's what he was trying to say.
Well, I think power should be limited because if you overuse your power, you lose touch of your mission. No, BuCor is a difficult situation. Napabayaan na to, dekada-dekada. Imagine na dapat 6,000 lang ang inmates doon sa maximum security prison. Ngayon 30,000 na. How come na ngayon ganyan kalaki na yan? Over the years or decades, hindi naasikaso ito. And then of course, ang dami mong harapin. Wala naman palang mga procedures dito. Walang sistema. No? Kaya nga, sabi nga nila, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, yun nga, hindi pwedeng kaharian mo ito with your own whims and caprices. Kung hindi, magkakagulo talaga.
Okay. Second reaction lang sa isa pang statement niya. Sabi niya, diver daw siya. Kaya niya naisipan din na gumawa nga ng swimming pool at napakalayo naman daw nung paghuhukay na ginawa nila doon sa sinasabi ninyong exit point, no? Na kung sakali mang gagawin yun na escape tunnel. Ano pong comment nyo doon?
Kung gagawa siya ng swimming pool, doon sa ibabaw may swimming pool na eh. Kaya nga nasira yung swimming pool. Kaya nung nag-uusap kami ni Senator Bato de la Rosa, sabi niya, when I was the BuCor commander or the BuCor chief, General, ang ginagawa ko lang dyan, mag-swimming. I cannot go on jogging kasi medyo may dangerous yung surroundings ko dyan. Hindi ko alam. Marami din na mga pre-inmates na lumaya na nandyan lang sa tabi-tabi. So, I cannot jog around. So, yun ako si-swimming dun sa director's quarters. So, there's no need to put up a swimming pool. At saka hindi naman swimming pool yung tinayos niya eh. Kuweba. Paano ka magtatayo ng swimming pool sa kuweba?
Baka sa deep sea diving.
General, kumakanta daw kayo ng Desperado ngayon.
Sample nga, sir.
Hindi. Tatanong ko lang kung can you tell us some information about, ito daw si Herman ba to o German Agoho, siya tinuturo ni Gerald Bantag na yan daw ang nag-organize ng pagpatay kay Percy Lapid. Kilala niyo ba tong si Mr. Agoho?
I don't know him. Alam ko, inmate siya. And alam ko, kinuha siya ng NBI for further investigation. So, yun lang naman na naging role ko dito sa Percy Lapid case eh. So, that's why nung nag-take over ako, I just made sure that all the inmates requested by the NBI and the PNP are made available.
May balita na po ba kayo kay Mr. Sulweta? Kasi hanggang ngayon, siya yung makakabigay ng direct link actually between the hired guns and si Mr. Bantag nga. May balita na ba kayo kung nasan siya? If he's still in the country, for example?
Wala na po. After mga 5 days na monitor namin. Pero as of now, he's not anymore present in his house.
Sa reaction niyo lang dun sa sinabi ni General Bantag na kayo daw talaga ang manok ni Justice Secretary Remulla para dyan sa BuCor Chief.
Actually, hindi nga ako talaga nakaposisyon dyan. Deputy lang ang aking naghahanap si Secretary Boying ng deputy kasi naka-fill up na yung BuCor chief eh. So paano naman natin naalisin si Bantag nandiyan na siya. And at the same time, meron na-appoint na immigration chief. So paano naman ako papasok na chief ng immigration? So I will have to be just a deputy.
Yan nga ang pinapahiwatig niya in effect na kaya nga raw siya in effect na pag-initan na target dahil nga may ibang plano for the BuCor chief position.
Hindi naman siya napag-initan kasi nagkaroon nga ng problema sa Bilibid. And that there's a need to conduct an investigation because the inmate was killed inside the Bilibid prison. So he has to go on a preventive suspension to allow a impartial investigation. So doon ako pumasok. Never ko inampisyon yung posisyon niya. Yan ang pinakamahirap na posisyon sa Department of Justice.
Okay. Sir, pahabol na ako ng tanong, sir. Hanggang ngayon kasi hindi ko rin ma-imagine kung ano talaga yung ginagawa dyan sa Bilibid, yung hukay na yan. I mean, well, of course, you're there. You've talked to the people there. It's hard to imagine na wala nakakaalam kung para saan siya. Obviously, hindi pwedeng si Gerald Bantag mismo yung nag-ooperate ng heavy machinery. So, I suppose you've talked to some people there who were operating the heavy machinery or guarding it or mga trabahador dyan. Ano raw yung pakay ng paghuhukay from what you found out so far?
May nagsalita na guard. During those times, they were guards, but they were prevented to move around. Doon lang sila sa isang portion doon, and they were told not to go near the ongoing quarrying or excavation. And then they saw some metal detectors were being used to look into the cave. Where ba yung ginawa
Ayan po,
ko?
yeah, we're showing it now sa TV. We're showing the video right now, sir.
Oo. Si Umaga, video yan eh. So, ayan, kuweba yan. They're searching for something.
Yes, sir. Kasi sir, if it's gold that they're searching for, usually ang gold is not found in huge nuggets that can be detected by metal detectors. So I suppose yung presumption doon is they're looking for something large and metallic.
Baka metal bullion o gold bullions.
O kumbaga nakalibing, ibig sabihin baka nakalibing na ano?
Usually kasi may hits na nung paalis na raw yung mga hapon, tinago sa ilalim ng mga bahay. Oo. May mga myth pa dyan kahit sa PMA na yung bahay ng mga superintendent doon itinago a tunnel, and then nilagyan ng bomba. So whoever gets into that culvert na malaki, it will explode, and there's one truck na itinago mga ginto. These are myths.
Yes, sir. These are legends, kumbaga.
Oh, legends about the Yamashita.
Yes, sir. So what you're saying so far is that what you're hearing is it appears to be treasure hunting.
Yeah, maybe. Most likely.
Okay.
Hindi swimming pool, ha?
Hindi swimming pool. Okay. Well, maraming salamat, General Gregorio Catapang, ang OIC ng BuCor. Ingat po parate.
Thank you, General.
Salamat, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And we're starting up another conversation right after this break, so please stay with us here in the Chiefs.
We're going to take back America, and in 2024, most importantly, we are going to take back our magnificent White House.
Votes are still being counted, but it is clear your work sent a message to the entire world. Our democracy is intact.
Many of Donald Trump's candidates lost, and a lot of people in the Republican Party are probably going to say, maybe he shouldn't be the head of our party if he's choosing candidates like this.
I know I got criticized for it when I ran. I said I was running for 3 reasons. 1, to restore the soul of America. 2, to build this economy from the middle out and the bottom up. And thirdly, to unite the country. Regardless of what the final tally showed, I'm prepared to work with Republicans. But the American people have made it clear. They expect Republicans to work with me as well.
What's the impact of the midterm elections on the Filipino community in the United States? We ask Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Romualdez, who joins us now via Zoom. Good evening from Manila, Ambassador Babes Romualdez.
Good morning to me, and good evening to all of you. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, good evening.
Okay, we begin with what's in store for Philippine-U.S. relations and the Philippine community, given the way the midterm elections are going, Mr. Ambassador?
And I think it's a great indication that the Filipinos here play a role to a certain extent, because, like, for instance, in many parts of the United States, Filipino community or the Filipino Philam votes actually made a difference to a certain extent. But more than that, I think our relationship with the United States will continue to be as strong as ever. And whichever way it goes anyway, whether Democrats or Republicans, we're prepared to work with any one of them.
What are your learnings from the elections this time around, especially because everybody was saying that there was going to be a huge wave in favor of the Republicans, especially for the Senate. But now it's turning out that the wave is really just a ripple, no? And they're not talking about runoff elections. Maybe you can explain to us exactly what that means.
Well, the projected red wave, they called it, didn't happen. But what's important here is to note that I think the United States right now is facing very major challenges, and they are in fact really I would call it really divided to a certain extent, because the House is going to be, well, while it might fall into the hands of the Republicans, but it's a very small margin, and of course you can see this is going to be a runoff, which means that if the Democrats maintain the 50-50, there's one vote which should go basically to the vice president. So there will be a majority by default, so to speak. So the country right now, I think the United States is divided. They're reaching a crossroads. They have to make decisions that will eventually benefit mostly for the American people, is what they're trying to point out. Our hope, however, we see that the foreign policy of the United States will remain the same, basically, especially in the ASEAN region. We all know that the ASEAN region is one of the most important global arena now. In fact, there's so many things that are happening now in the ASEAN region, with the APEC, the G20 meetings, and also the ASEAN summit. So we will see more of that in the future.
How do you think that the elections will impact, for example, their foreign policy in regard to the West Philippine Sea in particular?
Well, I think the Biden administration, and as a matter of fact, we had the ASEAN ambassadors had lunch with the Chinese ambassador just a couple of days ago, and we asked them about exactly that, what would be the impact in his view. And he says that if it's one thing that China has done, is that we have unified both the Republicans and the Democrats, because they both feel the same way about us. Well, he was being sarcastic to a certain extent, but perhaps that is true, that the United States sees China as a competitor, and they're trying to manage that competition between both these two countries.
Ambassador, it's a very close vote, but will it really matter a lot for the Marcos administration by way of interacting with Washington, whichever party wins, whichever party dominates in the U.S.?
Well, I think as a whole, the Philippines as a whole is a very important country, not only because we are a major ally, but because we are right in the center of the ASEAN region right now. President Marcos' opportunity actually now, being a new elected leader in that part of the world, has a role to play. Perhaps he could be the spokesperson of the ASEAN leadership, as he is a very articulate person. He will be able to elucidate all what the ASEAN community wants to do in relation to the United States.
What about in dealing with anti-Asian hate crimes? I understand there was a group of journalists that visited the U.S. recently, and they experienced hate crimes in New York and in Washington. Which party do you think, or will it make a difference? Whichever party?
Well, I think generally both parties condemn this type of behavior. But although we all know that during the term of President Trump, he was insinuating that the Chinese were responsible for the COVID-19. And so that elicited a lot of hatred, almost to the point of violence against Asians. So anyone who looked Chinese was actually a victim at that time. However, the Biden administration, of which we, the ASEAN community, we all banded together and continued to press the State Department and the White House to do something about it because it was getting out of hand. And so they came out with a new law, a federal law that actually makes any kind of activities against Asians a federal crime. And there are many other things that they're trying to do, especially in New York, where the law enforcement now sends a lot of undercover agents, especially in the subways.
Sir, going back to foreign policy, I'm just wondering how much of a difference would it make to Filipinos whether or not it's a Republican or a Democrat Congress? I asked that because, for example, of course, a lot of people look at the Republicans in general terms as more isolationist than the Democrats, at least in general terms. But on the other hand, it's not Congress that makes foreign policy; it's the White House. But on the other hand, naman, the makeup of Congress could also help determine the makeup of the White House in 2 years.
Well, I think most Filipinos really, you'd be surprised that there are quite a number of Filipinos who belong to that segment of society that are extremely conservative. I was surprised myself. As I said, in New Jersey, for instance, which is supposed to be known as a Democrat country, they say, quite a number of Republicans actually made it to the state legislature and to other leaderships there. But generally, Filipinos, especially in California, are all looking at Democrats as their choice, most of them anyway. But as far as foreign policy is concerned, as I said, the ASEAN region is very important to the United States now more than ever. And so that kind of foreign policy, whether Republican or Democrat, will continue to look at the Asian region as very important for the relationship with the United States.
Mr. Ambassador.
What about participation of Filipino Americans in U.S. governance? I understand that there were several Filipino Americans who actually won key positions in California as well as in New York. Are we seeing more and more of them actually getting elected to these positions?
Oh, yes, definitely. Filipinos here in the United States have really, I would call them the Filipino wave, because they are not many positions. We have an Asian American who has Filipino blood in the White House right now. And we have also a number of, I think, members of the state legislature from Hawaii all the way down to New Jersey, as I said. So they're really playing a major role now in the United States, and we're very proud of them. Actually, we've worked with many of these associations who are out there to take care of Filipino Americans, but they also have this very strong affinity to the Philippines. Some of them were born here. They've never been to the Philippines, but they're very eager to do something for the country.
Do you think that's a result of the fact that there are more and more Filipinos or Asian voters choosing their own kind and voting them into power, or is it coming from Americans themselves that they're gaining newfound respect, perhaps, for the Asian community and voting them into leadership positions?
I think that one thing that we have to be proud of is that it's just inside us. It's inert in the Philippines. We're very good workers. If we are professionals, we're very good at what we do. We have very good relations with people. And I know this for a fact because every time I talk to any member of the U.S. Congress, at the end of the day, even if we have some issues that we discussed that are very serious, we always end up talking about the Filipino community in the area, and they were extremely proud of that. That gives you an indication of what the Filipino is all about. And like I said, it's just inside us. We just are the kind of people that when we do something, we do it well, and we have very good, what we call EQ. We have a very good, that kind of relationship that we give to people.
Okay, Ambassador Romualdez, President Marcos seems to be on a diplomatic road trip or road tour, going to different countries, attending international events. In the U.S., I heard that there are 2 scheduled visits by BBM. What's on the agenda as far as you know?
Well, President Marcos has made it clear, even I think during the campaign, that one of his main objectives is to bring economic prosperity to the country. And so what we call that's economic diplomacy. When we were in New York, his instructions to us was to make sure to pack his schedule with mostly meeting with American businessmen, to try to entice them, to listen to them on to what kind of requirements they have to be able to start their investment in the Philippines, which I think to a certain extent we've succeeded in doing that. And that is probably what he's going to be doing in most of the countries that he visited. In fact, I understand that even in Cambodia, where it's supposed to be an ASEAN summit meeting, he made the point to be able to meet with Cambodian businessmen to be able to see also on how we can work with our ASEAN neighbors on in cooperation on the economic part. So that, I think, is a cornerstone of his administration's plans for the next 6 years, to entice more and more investments coming to the Philippines, because it is really the way to go. It's a global economic community. That's what we have right now, and he's going to be doing a lot of that. Now, his 2 trips here in the United States, it's an invitation actually for the Summit for Democracy, which is being hosted by the White House here in Washington, D.C. And another one, of course, is the APEC, which is scheduled sometime at the end of the year, of next year. Mm-hmm. So the United will be the host of the APEC next year.
Meanwhile, the Philippines is preparing to welcome the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris this month. Is there any specific agenda during her trip to Geneva?
Well, Vice President Harris actually was very encouraged when the second gentleman went to the inauguration of President Marcos. He saw how friendly the Filipinos were. He had a very good meeting with the then President-elect Marcos, and it was very cordial. And if I remember correctly, President Marcos even told the second gentleman that Vice President Kamala Harris was very much admired by Filipino women. After all, she is the first minority vice president, or the first female vice president of the United States. So there's a lot of enthusiasm in meeting the vice president. I think that her main agenda is to really be able to move around, and of course to continue to reiterate the commitment of the United States that we are in fact allies, and we will help each other in every way that they can. And this is really the main. I've had several meetings with the staff of the vice president preparing for this trip, and she's really, I understand, she's extremely excited to come to the Philippines.
What about Vice President Sara Duterte? Is she pushing through with her visit to the U.S., and when might that be?
Yes, there is a plan for the Vice President to come to the United States, and I'm sure the Vice President Harris, will invite the Vice President Sara, both being female Vice Presidents. That's really a perfect match, so to speak. But the Vice President Sara, has been invited to several forums here in the United States, and will be preparing for that, for her trip also sometime next year.
Will you be bringing in a big group of businessmen, which is often the case when there are dignitaries visiting the Philippines from America?
Well, not on this trip of the Vice President. She's coming from the APEC meeting, and so I'm sorry, the Yes, I'm sorry, the APEC meeting. That's where Vice President is going in Thailand. But there are a number of business groups. In fact, there was a first business group that was there in Manila about a month ago. This is the US-ASEAN Business Council. There were a group of about 70 of them that came to the Philippines, and there will be a lot more of that in the near future, because there's a lot of excitement, mainly because the Philippines now is poised to really be a central point in economic activity, not only for the United States but for many countries as well. So we can really be, I would say, lucky in that sense that the interest in looking at the Philippines is very, very high right now in the radar screen.
Mr. Ambassador, maybe I just ask one more question. You were already the ambassador during the term of President Duterte, when the relationship with the U.S. was, less than the warm relationship we usually had with them. And now that it's shifted to President Bongbong Marcos, do you actually palpably feel the change or the thawing in effect of those relations?
Today, to a certain extent, I would say that I'm lucky to be able to serve both President Duterte and now President Marcos. Why? Because President Duterte, for whatever anyone will say, he made it very clear to the United States that you cannot take us for granted. And that is the message that we were able to sort of finesse here in Washington, D.C. We really have to work together and really have some kind of respect for each other's sovereignty, which is very important. And that obviously resulted in the Defense Secretary himself saying that we cannot take our allies for granted. And now President Marcos, who's had a very good meeting with President Biden, it was about a 45-minute meeting, which was supposed to be only for about 30 minutes. They had a very good discussion, and after the meeting, the White House obviously gave me a readout on what they were thinking about it, and they were very impressed with President Marcos' grasp of the issues involved, especially with our relationship. And of course, they were very pleased to see that he was very articulate in what he thought the United States and the Philippines should do in the next couple of years ahead of us. So that does turn out very well. And for me, as the ambassador, I'm very lucky to have that kind of situation right now. Makes my...
Okay.
No, maraming salamat, Ambassador Babe Romualdez, coming from Washington. Sir, magandang umaga. And thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to see all of you, my good friends.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you.
That's it for the Chiefs. We hope that this discussion will keep the conversation going. I'm Ed Lingao.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Luchi Cruz-Valdes, News 5.
I'm Cito Beltran. We all...